I recently took a crack at Star Citizens, trying to see what the game was like when coming from a background in Elite Dangerous. The D2E merch store is open. There are t-shirts, sweaters, hoodies, mugs and tote bags with many cool designs. Head down to the link in the video description and get yourself your merchandise today. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Star Citizens. Yes, I finally decided to go and take a proper look at the game and see what it was all about. And I'm gonna take you along for the ride for the first couple of hours of gameplay and my experience with it. I spawned in a small room and the controls were, well, quite intuitive, and I relatively quickly picked them up and I could begin interact with things around me. I walked around the room and got a little bit familiar with the controls and the surroundings and managed to locate a door. Opening the door opened it up out to a larger hallway, and upon leaving the room into the hallway, the game decided to crash the desktop. So far not the best experience. But I decided to get back at it, booted up the game again, gave it a go. Back in the bed again, I managed this time to exit the room and get out to the slum-looking area. I began exploring around. It looked like mostly NPCs. And finally I managed to find a small button located next to a door at one end of the hallway that said call elevator. I called the elevator, but nothing happened. So I thought, well, must be broken. And I kept looking around, lots of other doors, but I couldn't seem to open any of them. Eventually, I, by sheer luck, looked back toward the elevator and just noticed the elevator door closing. So I ran back up to the elevator door. And this was the first time I got that, of course, feeling. And you will see this happen a lot of times. Because obviously, when you call an elevator, you have to wait for it. Makes sense. It's not just gonna open straight away. The elevator took me to what I believe is the main part of the city I was in, or space station. I actually don't know at this point. I think it's a surface station. But regardless, I got to a larger area and I began exploring around. Just walking around aimlessly, didn't really know what I was looking for. I wanted to see if I could find like my spaceship or something. I mean, it's a space game after all, and was what I wanted to go and explore. Just walking around randomly, I didn't see anything that looked like a spaceship at all. Find lots of other things, but no spaceships. And it was at this point that I began to notice there was a lot of signs everywhere. And I began reading the signs. And eventually I actually managed to find a way to a train station, and at the train station there was a platform that took me to the spaceport. I actually think this was a brilliant experience as a new player. Getting that realization that, yes, of course, when you are in an unfamiliar territory, an unfamiliar city, what do? You read the signs, you find a map. It makes sense that if you want to find your way around an unfamiliar territory, you read the signs. After I found my platform, I began to notice a lot of people just randomly standing around on the seats. And I thought, what is that all about? And after I found more of them, I decided, well, when in Rome, do like the Romans, and decided to give the whole seat standing a go. After trying it out for a bit, I didn't really get the point of it, but luckily by then my train had arrived. So I jumped aboard the train, hoping that I didn't have to buy a ticket or anything first. Train was empty, so I took a seat. Train left, I hoped in the right direction. But again, you really got that feeling, like, even though the whole trip was just, I think, about a minute, you really got that feeling that, hey, I'm now commuting around a big city and actually not having the train being a loading screen, but actually being, you're just sitting there, you can see the city go by, you can see some of the landmarks I noticed earlier rushing by the windows was actually a pretty good experience. Upon leaving the train, I followed the signs, which quickly led me to what I believe is the central area for the spaceport. There was a ship put out for display, and I've noticed as I was walking around, there were like adverts running over the the sound systems or whatever that call that stations, right? And I thought, you know what? I've got to go and I'm going to have a look at those space dealerships, or car dealerships, but for spaceships, I guess. Again, using all the handy signs, quickly located the place where you apparently can buy spaceships. Took a look around and looked at all the expensive ships that I probably couldn't buy. Tried to find a smaller one. Tried to see if I could get inside them. I thought, well, if I'm gonna buy a ship, I want to see what it's like inside. What is it roomy? How much space is there inside? Unfortunately, it seemed like the game didn't allow that. I'm not really sure if you can get in and try to see the inside of the ship before you decide to purchase them. But after looking at all the spaceships that I didn't have the money for, I made my way back to the center area, found a console that allowed me to call my ship, which apparently was called to Hangar 9. Now the problem is, how do we find Hangar 9? Well, back at looking at signs, I found a sign that said hangars, and which led me to a bunch of elevators. And apparently at this point I forgot how elevators work, so I called an elevator, got impatient, called another elevator, after which point the first one arrived. After I got inside the elevator, just stood there. Again, this game mentality where I'm so used to when you go into an elevator, it's essentially a load screen and it just takes you where you need to go, right? So I stood there for like a good 30 seconds until, oh, right, I need to tell the elevator where I need to go. So I found a control panel and I send it to Hangar 9. After arriving in Hangar 9, I finally got a first look at my spaceship. Actually, one of the ships that I was looking at the dealership. This time it did allow me to take a look inside. It was a small, confined space with a single bed and a commander chair. I tried out the bed and then quickly jumped in the pilot seat. Pretty intuitive, getting at least some hand movements on the joysticks in game, but ship wouldn't really move. So I began pushing buttons. Basically, there were like interfaces you could open up, and I began pushing things until I finally managed to turn on my engines and get the ship flying. The controls, again, relatively straightforward, and I think here having a background already playing space sims kind of helped. And if you used to play a game like Elite Dangerous on mouse and keyboard, then this should be pretty straightforward. I haven't set up my HOTAS for it just yet. I just wanted to get a gist of the whole thing before I decided to spend hours configuring a HOTAS for it. After I familiarized myself with the controls, I realized that I couldn't really get out of the hangar. There was a roof above me. So I tried to get the ship back on the ground, which I managed relatively easily. I began to look for controls around me, and I actually had to end up looking up a tutorial online, which showed me that I had to open up this arm thing and then go into a comms panel, and in the comms panel I had to go into my friends list of all places, and in there I could apparently access the hangar roof, or request I guess I request the hangar to be opened. Well, the hangar opened. I finally made my way outside and thought, you know what, I'm gonna take a small trip around the city to try to get a feeling for the size of it and just take a look around the area. After I began flying around, quickly some kind of autopilot took over, and at least not all the controls that I gave make sense. But after struggling with that for a bit and trying to regain control of the ship, my ship decided to spontaneously destroy itself in mid-air. I'm still not 100% sure why. I guess maybe it was some kind of trespass area that I was not allowed to fly in or something like that. I don't know. From a new player's perspective, that was really like, oh, I was close to just closing down the game and calling it a day at that point. Because it's taken me well over an hour, like navigating the city and figuring out how to get here, how to open the hangar, how to all this stuff just to get my ship, and I only managed to get it in space for like 30 seconds before the whole thing blew up. Well, back in the bed where the whole thing started, my character decided to randomly get a heart attack and die, spawned me in the same bed again, and I was back to square one. And this was pretty much the end of my first play session. I didn't want to go through the whole finding the train again and getting to the right station and all that different things again. Probably take me another half hour to figure out how to get to the ship. I don't know if there's a faster way, but for me it was enough for one play session, I think. How was my new play experience in Star Citizens? Well, I could definitely appreciate the attention to detail and the realism that has been put into the game, at least from what I've seen so far. Now, coming from a background in Elite Dangerous, I am used to games that doesn't hold your hand and doesn't really show you where to go or what to do and encourage you to go and figure it out yourself. However, I would have liked if there was a little bit more help with some of the interface part of it and like how to actually like navigate anywhere. A simple dude read the signs would have been really, really helpful. It would probably have saved me half an hour of stumbling around a station not knowing where to go. And I know I have only just scratched the surface of what this game has to offer. So this is by no means a full review of what I think of the game. But from a new player perspective, there are definitely room for improvements, but there are definitely also some awesome elements. Thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more Star Citizens videos, go down and hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, I will see you guys in space.